What's the dumbest thing you ever did as a child? When I was 3 or 4, I managed to stick a pair of rubber gloves in the toaster oven and turned it on to see what would happen. I nearly burned our kitchen down, but my pregnant mother waddled into the kitchen and promptly chucked the flaming toaster oven into the backyard. The stress from this whole ordeal sent my mom into labor later that evening. A few hours later, and my sister was born. I got my friend to stand against a wall, and I'd try to throw darts at the wall and not hit him. Like those no-throwing things, except I wasn't a trained professional. Probably my earliest horrific memory. My aunt brought me back these little spiral seashells that look like this and are about the size of a corn kernel. I was about 5, and while I clearly remember everything, from sitting up in bed after bedtime, lights out, bag of seashells with me, deciding that I wanted to put one up my nose, but I don't remember why I felt I needed to do this. I just remember the sinking feeling when I shoved it up there and realized I couldn't get it out. I was trying hard to squeeze my finger in my nostril and move it around when I felt my nose gushing blood everywhere. I started screaming and crying, and my mother ran into the room, and I can only imagine how retarded she thought I was. Writing in wet cement. Not just my name, but my address and phone number. I was 5. My grandmother, who lived right next door to us, used to remove cat shit from our backyard by tossing it over the fence with a toy shovel. One day when my parents weren't home, I was playing in the backyard by myself and felt the need to use the bathroom, but I didn't want to have to go inside. So of course I took inspiration from my grandmother and took a shit on the shovel and tried to throw it over the fence. I stood with my back to the fence and tried to swing the shovel in an arc above my head so that the shit would be flung up over the fence behind me. Instead, the poop slid off of the shovel and landed directly on top of my head. I can't imagine what my grandmother must have been thinking when she was having to wash shit out of my hair. I lived on a farm. On the other side of the fence was a hayfield. My grandmother was not throwing cat shit into any neighbor's yards. Called 911 saying, "Hurry, they got a gun." Because I wanted to act out a scene from Home Alone 2. When I was around 7, I screwed up pretty big. I decided to take a bubble bath one night, and I really went to town with the bubbles. They were everywhere. Throughout my time in the tub, I kept turning the hot water on and off depending on how the bath water felt. Well, eventually bath time was over and I had to get out. So I turned the hot water knob all the way back to where it started and got out to get ready for bed. Remember how I told you there were a lot of bubbles? Well, they were so high they were covering the faucet and the knobs that control the water. Instead of turning the hot water off like I thought I did, I actually turned it back on. I couldn't hear anything because the water level was so high already it wasn't making a splashing sound. Our family realized something was wrong when we were sitting downstairs and part of the ceiling pretty much collapsed and water went everywhere. The tub ended up overflowing and flooding most of the upstairs of our house. It ruined my parents' bedroom floor. I took the bath in their bathroom and ended up going through the ceiling and ruining our dining table on the first floor. In the end, my parents had to pay a few $1,000s to fix the floors and ceilings and replace the table. I still fucking love baths. I'm just a bit smarter about taking them now. I took a $5,000 bath and destroyed my house. I was about 5 and farted in the bath. The bubbles made me laugh, so I tried really hard to fart again and ended up shitting in the bath. The log apparently both surprised and scared me when I saw it floating, so I tried to splash it away and instead threw it out the bath and onto the carpet. I thus began to scream, so Mum came running in from next door and stood on the turd. I made a hang glider out of aluminum tent poles, duct tape, and garbage bags. I successfully jumped off my roof with no injuries, but was not so lucky later when I managed to make it into the middle of my street on a windy day. I was lifted up 4 feet into the air, backwards, and was blown down the street into an oncoming semi-truck. Lucky for me, the driver had stopped because he couldn't figure out what the hell that was coming towards him. This decreased the impact, but my body still left an imprint in the grill of the truck. I was camping with my friend's family in some big, remote park. We decided to go adventuring and went through the woods and climbed hills and such. His little brother came along with us. As we climbed a hill, I looked back and saw him below. I came to a rock about 10 inches across and thought it would be exciting to dislodge it with my foot and have it whiz by him. I didn't mean to hurt him, but it tumbled and bounced and kicked right at him. I can remember him just looking up in time to see it coming. It hit him in the head and he went straight down unconscious. I don't remember a ton of details. I was only about 8 or 9 years old, but he had to be taken to hospital. Thankfully, he ended up being okay. The worst part about the story is that in retelling what happened, I never owned up to purposefully starting the rock. I was terrified I would be in so much trouble I already was. I felt awful about this inside for some time, and you know, stuff like that doesn't go away. I am 41 now. I was mad at my sister, so at the dinner table I stood up on a chair, pulled my pants down, and put my bum in her spaghetti. My parents made her eat it anyway. Actually, this might be the most awesome thing I did as a child. Okay, I'll talk. In 3rd grade, I cheated on my history exam. In 4th grade, I stole my Uncle Max's toupee and I glued it on my face when I was Moses in my Hebrew school play. In 5th grade, I knocked my sister Edie down the stairs and I blamed it on the dog. When my mom sent me to the summer camp for fat kids and then they served lunch, I got nuts and I pigged out and they kicked me out. But the worst thing I ever done, I mixed a pot of fake puke at home and then I went to this movie theater, hid the puke in my jacket, climbed up to the balcony, and then I made a noise like this, hua 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 hua, and then I dumped it over the side, all over the people in the audience. And then, this was horrible, all the people started getting sick and throwing up all over each other. I never felt so bad in my entire life. Tried to swing like Tarzan from some grape fiends hanging from the trees in our woods. While peeing, yeah, that was the first time I tasted urine. My parents told me that when I was 3 years old, I found my dad's crescent wrench. Proceeded to hold it down my pants and tighten it onto Mbod Jr. And then run around my backyard crying, with a wrench dangling from my doodle. I don't know how I got it that tight. When I was a kid, I showed my first boner to my parents. There was also 2 cops there because my mom lost her purse the day before. I thought my dick was broken, so I started freaking out and showed everyone. Needless to say, the cops were impressed. I found a bullet and used a hammer to smash it. It exploded, and all of these little pellets went into my knee. I spent days picking them out with a knife. I was 11 years old at the time, and my parents never found out. My siblings and I would try and do daring and dangerous stunts on our trampoline, like jumping off the roof of our house to try and launch each other. I must have a guardian angel because all of my siblings got horrific injuries. Example, my sister didn't make it all the way from the roof one time and landed on a sprinkler head. The worst I ever got was being launched off the trampoline and through an old wooden fence into my neighbor's yard. Yeah, not over the fence, through the fence. I once Googled tits on my parents' computer and it got saved in the history. After not finding out how to clear history, I grabbed a dictionary and started Googling. I had this idea that if I Googled every word, how would tits ever be found? I got about 2 pages before I gave up and forgot about it until today. I find it kind of funny when I look back at it. Lol, I wasn't even a child. Was in my 20s. I was working in a doctor's surgery installing software. I started playing around with a stethoscope that was on the desk. Check my heart, lungs, brain, etc. Then I needed to fart, so I said fuck it. In for a penny, in for a pound. Long story short, loudest fart ever and a busted eardrum to go with it. Story time. When I was 5 years old, I lived on the 18th floor of a building. It was Halloween and I just got my Batman costume, and for some fucked reason I thought, hey, I have the suit, so obviously I can fly. Well, my dad saw me walking towards my balcony, and once he saw I was trying to climb up the railing, he grabbed me, put me inside, bought new deadbolts and locks for the balcony. When he asked me to jump off my kitchen table and fly, I told him I can't because there isn't wind. I bought a Batman costume and tried to fly from 18 floors up. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Write in the comments your stupidest thing you did as a kid. And also be sure to subscribe to our channel to not miss new super interesting videos, and I advise you to watch our other videos.